Good afternoon. My name is Brian Makris. I'm President and CEO of Home Choice Lending, and today on Grit Matters, we have Mike Capone, and he is here. He's a home inspector. And Mike, thanks for coming on today.
No problem.
So this is an interesting market. There are contracts that I'm seeing where people are waiving home inspections and all of that stuff, and you have such an important piece to the puzzle because you're really there to help the buyer protect their investment. So tell me, it's a very important role in the job, but tell me how you got into home inspecting and tell me a little bit about who you are and where you came from.
Yeah, so I'm born and raised in New Hampshire.
Nice. So a local.
Yeah, yep. So I've pretty much been in the trades, some form of the trades my whole life. Started in grounds crew at a golf course, then did landscaping, then did painting. Then I started my own painting and property maintenance company, which I did for close to 10 years, I'd say.
Wow.
And then I actually broke my leg playing flag football, right? Like
no contact sport, but I broke my leg.
Oh, yeah, father-in-law, my father, like, what are you doing playing flag football? But anyway, so I broke my leg and then was laid up. I had to get surgeries. So I started studying to become a home inspector. Then in 2015, I became licensed. I've been full-time ever since, and I've owned my own company since 2020.
Wow.
Yep.
Okay. And whereabouts do you service? So if somebody's out there and like, I want to get a home inspection, I need to protect this, $300K, $500K, $750,000 investment in the
Yep.
home. Are you going to Pittsburgh, New Hampshire?
No. So I'm out of Raymond, and I'll travel an hour, hour and a half.
Okay.
Around Raymond.
Okay, gotcha. So
Yep.
Seacoast is fine, Dover
Yep.
is fine, and all those little side towns heading this direction, Manchester, Bedford, Amherst, Hollis,
Yep.
no problem at all.
One up Asaki, that area.
Okay.
I mean,
If
if you really want me, and it's
Right.
further than that, you can pay me.
Yeah. There's a gas surcharge
Yeah,
these
yeah,
days.
yeah.
It's,
But I'm not negotiating if
Right.
it's a 2-hour drive. But yeah, an hour and a half around Raymond.
Okay, gotcha. All right, so that's pretty cool. Pretty wide area right there. And tell me a little bit about what you're doing on these home inspections. Okay, what's your license, so that's
Yep.
a huge piece of the puzzle.
Yep.
There's a certification that takes place, maybe continuing education, and
Yep.
then you go out and you're looking at these houses. What are you trying to find?
Well, the big thing is, what can you negotiate, right? So typically you can only negotiate structural, safety, or systems.
Okay.
We're looking for way more than that. My home inspection is above and beyond what NACHI or OSHI, which are the big associations that most inspectors use and go by their standards of practice. So we're looking for everything they want you to look for, everything the state of New Hampshire License Board wants you to look for, and then the stuff that I've added, which is above and beyond. The checklist is like 200 items.
Okay.
But the big thing, what I'm really looking for is moisture intrusion, moisture damage, stuff like that, structural issues, which are rare, to be honest with you. I think the building code in New Hampshire started really being enforced around 2001.
Okay.
But I tell all my friends buying houses, 80s and up, you can't go wrong.
Okay.
But that's what we're looking for, structural safety systems, and then there's always update recommendations. A home inspection is not a code inspection. If a home had to be brought up to code to sell, you'd have to tear down just about any house that's like older than 8 years old.
That's huge too,
Yeah.
because I think sometimes people are thinking, hey, this house is going to be to code. Well, maybe the house was built, 1902 or 1920, and it's different. The code is different.
The framing rules are different.
The framing rules,
yeah.
and the distance from the wood to any ground, water or.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah.
So that's a big thing. Like nowadays, most homes are built, 8 inches above grade, which they should be. But some of those old colonials will pretty much sit right at grade.
Yeah. You got to pull the leaves off of the trim.
Yeah, they're lucky because they're all made out of old growth wood. So it can get wet and not rot out as fast as like some of this new wood. 6 months, it's consistently wet. It's confetti. Yeah.
Yeah, and then it's inviting termites in or wood destroying insects.
But the big thing is that we go where you can't go at a showing. A showing's 20 minutes. You bring your dad who's, installed vinyl siding his whole life. We're going way above and beyond that. You know, I do climb roofs.
Okay.
Some home inspectors don't. Drones do work, but I find with my drones, you still can't get close enough to chimney flashing, stack vent flashing, stuff like that. But the big thing at the end is that you understand update recommendations, things that the house should have, and you understand what the house needs now.
What the risk is.
What the risk is, yeah.
So are you climbing into an attic?
Definitely.
Okay,
Yeah.
that could be tough. There's going to be bats, and I'm sure you find some things in there.
There's pictures of me going through 12 by 12 inch squares.
Wow.
You know, almost throwing my shoulder out. Yeah, I can get where a lot of other inspectors can't get.
Sure.
Because I'm fortunate enough to be small.
So you can climb in some of those nooks and crannies and really kind of get in. And I mean, you can see if there's, a venting issue. If you got a problem with a dryer that's going to vent into the attic and create mold.
Yep.
You are going to see some things that others won't.
Yep. It's important to go into the attic. The whole mold thing, in my opinion, is it's a little blown out of proportion.
Right.
It needs to be taken care of.
Sure.
But a lot of times it's like minor mildew staining on roof sheathing. It's this, if you have a wood stove, every time you pick up a log, it's pretty much the same type of thing. But it does need to be dealt with. And if you're going through some of those big mold remediation companies, their prices are really high. So it's not something you want to just roll the dice on and then buy the house and then have it looked at, because you could get a $10,000 remediation bill.
I want to talk a little bit about radon testing, and I see that you do it, and you do water as well. So
yeah,
I didn't even know radon could exist in water. I thought it was. I read something a long time ago. Is it like decaying?
It's uranium.
Yep.
Okay. Turns into a gas, leaches into basement spaces.
Okay.
Yeah. So we do anything for real estate transactions. We'll set up radon monitors. Takes 48 hours. Digital report, bar graphs. Water, we go through Nelson Analytics in Manchester.
Those guys are great.
But we gather the water, we disinfect it and torch the faucets. We do it correctly. Takes liability away from agents or homeowners. Personal experience is someone in my family bought a house and the seller did their own water test, and it turned out that they were using Poland Springs water.
and I'm sure it was perfect, right?
Oh yeah, it was perfect water. Yeah, perfect. But then they bought the house and they ended up needing a softener system. It was high in iron. So you want a third party to do as much of that stuff for you as you can.
Okay, so you're partnered with Nelson Analytics, so you can actually get that water sample, get it to them, and get those readouts for us. Because if we're doing a VA loan, which I'm sure you're familiar with, there's two things that VA loans really want to see. One is a pest inspection, for termites, wood destroying insects, and then the other is a water test if it's private water. Yep. So you can handle both of those pieces?
Yeah, we can do radon air, water testing, and the WDO report. The WDO report's included. Okay. It's kind of something as you're moving through the property, you're going to be looking for those things anyways.
Okay.
But yeah, so that's all in the inspection fee.
Okay.
And then the radon air and the waters are additional fees.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So I remember reading that there was a plant in Merrimack, New Hampshire that was having some leaking that was going into the ground and was creating issues for people.
Yep.
So this water test is kind of a real big deal right now. They got sued, I think, and allegedly got sued or allegedly did this.
Yeah, the town of Litchfield, a big section of it got put on public water because of it.
Okay.
That, unfortunately, is a VOC test.
Okay.
So if you wanted to test for that, it's an additional fee.
Okay. It's not your standard. They're
it's
looking for a specific chemical.
Yeah, it's a VOC test, but Nelson does do it.
Okay.
But you can get a lot of that information, I think, just from calling Nelson or even calling that company, because they had to do a bunch of testing. But yeah, that was a concern around the Merrimack area.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So
you can handle that, getting the water test, working with Nelson Analytic to come in and do that VOC test if that's a concern. And
we schedule septic inspections too.
Okay, and septic inspections.
Yep.
Okay, so When you talk about the different types of inspections that you do, it's kind of an a la carte. If I want to do this inspection, which is mainly a structural and make sure that there's no major thing here,
Yep.
you have a set cost for that, and then you have add-ons if you want to go further.
Yeah, yep. So you can do just a home inspection, no radon air testing, no water testing. You don't have to get the septic inspected, but if there's a few things that I would definitely do if you're buying a house, it's get the septic inspected, because anything that involves excavation equipment,
Yeah, it's expensive.
yeah, it's expensive.
And you
Even
want-
if it's as simple as changing a pitless adapter on a well casing, that's like a $40 part, but you got to pay someone to dig the 5-foot hole, you know?
Gotcha.
So anything that involves excavating, get prices
Okay.
and get inspections.
So yeah, I mean, to replace a septic is 12, 13, 14 grand, maybe a little less, maybe a
Yeah.
little bit more.
Yep.
But that's a big ticket item that you're
It
going
is.
to want to know prior, and you have connections to make sure that they can say, hey, this looks like it's leaching properly.
Definitely. Yep.
Will you do any of the survey stuff? So FHA, and I'm throwing you on the spot here, but FHA requires a measuring of the septic tank or leach field
Yep.
all the way to where the well is. They want it to be 75 feet
Yep,
or
yep.
greater. Will you do that type of a diagram
Well-
as well? Can you be hired to do that?
No. But at the home inspection, I'll make sure that that's good.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And if it's too close, I'll call it out.
Okay.
Again, we don't really see that too much. It's kind of like a no-brainer.
Right. Yeah.
When you're building a house, you don't want your well right next to the septic tank.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
You know?
I'll probably see it next week, though, because
Right.
that's how it works.
Of course.
You know, you talk about it, and then the next day you see it. But yeah, so we're inspecting the wells. Our home inspection is, I don't even charge people. I don't make them sign the digital agreement until at the end of the inspection. And I've never had one person be like, I'm not paying for what I just witnessed.
So
you know?
is the homeowner there during this
Hope
inspection?
not. Yeah.
Okay, so
They have been.
They have been,
Yeah.
and then the buyer's typically walking shoulder to shoulder with you. Maybe not into the attic. They're like, "Hey, let me know how that goes."
I want the buyer to stay right by my side the whole inspection.
Okay, so you can kind of walk them
Yep.
through and tell them, "Hey, this is an easy fix. This is a
Yep.
flashing thing. This here could be a challenge,
Yep.
and this is something that you might want to address with your agent."
Exactly. So I'm contractor experienced. I could honestly build a house with a jigsaw and a hammer.
Gotcha.
So if you stay near me, you're not going to get this report and be like, oh, what's
What is
all this
this?
entail? As I'm finding things, I'll tell you the best way to go about taking
Thanks.
care of it. It's better for me. I get less callbacks at the, a
Right,
week
right.
later. People
Yeah.
want.
What is page 7? What is this?
Yeah,
You know?
yeah. I rarely get those calls.
Okay.
And it's because my inspection's very hands-on. If you're a first-time buyer, if you've never owned a hammer, you want a contractor experienced inspector.
I love that.
Yeah, yeah.
All right, that's good advice. So, are these things expensive? I'm not, I'm sure
Yeah.
every house is different. I mean, if it's 3 bedrooms versus 4, are you making adjustments? If it's a 2,500 square foot home, I'm going to guess
I
a
feel-
10,000 square foot
yeah.
home is different than 2,500.
I feel that some people might think I'm a little not alarming enough, but money is a perception to people.
Sure.
Like $5,000 to one person,
Yeah.
it's the end of the world.
Right.
I've had a guy tell me if it costs less than $20,000 to fix, I don't even want to know about it. Don't worry about it.
Okay.
And he wasn't buying a huge house.
Yeah, it's just, yeah.
So
maybe he's got contractors in the family.
Yeah, yeah.
Or those connections that they can fix whatever that challenge is.
And at the inspection, I'll say, hey, that deck's not flash. It rotted out the rim joist. The sill needs to be replaced. There's ants in there. That's something I've personally fixed. I can't even count. So I can give you a price range on what it would cost to fix something
Love
like that. So you know what at least to expect.
Right. Estimated, repair on this could be $1,500, where this
Yeah.
might be anywhere from, $3,500 to $5,500,
Yeah.
depending on contractor and timing.
Yeah, and if it's under $5,000, I pretty much just put it in the report like repair needed. Anything over $5,000, I usually will put, hey, you might want to get a price prior to purchase.
Gotcha.
Like call an HVAC tech, call a carpenter, call a builder, get them in here within the next few days and get a proposal if the agents agree to that happening.
Right.
But again, that's a tough one because I don't know what money is to you.
Right.
You know?
Right.
You
So
know?
every house is different.
And every buyer's different.
And every buyer's different.
Yeah, so I'm not jumping up and down over everything I see.
Hey, we're missing a GFI next to this. And
Yeah.
you're like, that's a $20 fix.
Well, and that comes back to it's not a code inspection.
Gotcha.
Right? So in my reports, GFCIs are update recommendations.
Yeah.
You know? Although it does seem that agents will negotiate that.
Okay.
It's not something you should run away from your dream house because of.
Okay.
You know?
Easy enough fix.
Yeah.
So in today's market, are you seeing that your clientele, because you're all referral, 100% referral.
Yep.
So are people still using the service? I mean, a lot of people are waiving inspections today.
So January and February were typical. March has always been my busiest month, and March was kind of slow. But last week, the phone started to ring more. I did more post-inspections last year than I've ever done.
Interesting.
Which, surprisingly, none of them went really that bad. There was one where it was a young buyer, and the furnace was 40 years old. The shingles had like 5 years left. The chimney needed the flashing done. The deck wasn't flashed. She was a little bummed.
Yeah. And it can be a little overwhelming for a new buyer.
Yep. And they're paying $50,000 above current appraisal values, which in my opinion are a little crazy.
Yeah.
I'm definitely not buying right now.
Right.
And I noticed some agents are saying that the market's not going to change.
Right.
I think there's a little confusion on how supply and demand works there.
Yeah. Well, it's definitely going to change. Every boom, every
Yeah.
boom is an adjustment. Whether New Hampshire, because it's a tax-free, income tax-free state, a sales tax-free state. We were talking about this earlier. That you have a lot of out-of-state people moving to our
Definitely.
state. So that
Yeah.
inventory is unless everybody picks up and says, "Hey, I'm moving back to the city again,"
Yeah.
then we might have a housing shortage for a while, and
So-
it might level off. It might not be as
Yeah.
much of a seller demand or a buyer demand and seller demand.
For sure. I would say last year, a lot of buyers were fleeing the cities.
Yes.
Yeah. A lot of people from like outside Boston, Connecticut, they can now work from home.
Right. Remotely.
So, and they're used to seeing crazy housing prices no matter what, right?
In their
I
areas.
mean,
Yeah,
New York City is.
We're still at a discount.
Yeah, to them, it's still a discount. And if you're going to be in a house for 15 to 20 years, and who cares, Because the way the money works and everything goes, like, you should be fine in 15 to 20 years if you got to sell. If you got to sell next year or a few years, I think things are going to calm down. I don't think there's going to be global pandemic shutdowns, maybe spotty shutdowns, schools shutting down, or maybe certain areas of the world have to shut down for a few weeks. Hopefully war stops.
Right.
Should have stopped hundreds of years ago.
Right. I mean, it's useless.
It's so ridiculous. I think things are going to calm down.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, in today's market, no ifs, ands, or buts, though, you recommend, and I know you're in the business, so you're biased, but you got into this business probably because of the risk that homeowners have and not knowing. People can do that post-inspection. So if they're like waiving that inspection at the buy, you're saying that you're seeing a surge of people saying, "Hey, I still need an expert to come in and just let me know what I need to do for preventative maintenance or repairs."
And the order to do it in.
Okay.
Gotcha. So I did one, and this guy was all concerned because the chimney needed a bunch of work.
Yeah.
But the only thing going into his chimney was the boiler. So I look at the boiler, and the boiler's like 42 years old.
Right.
And I'm like, don't put any money into the chimney because your new system isn't going to need the chimney. He didn't know that. He already had chimney guys giving him prices.
Right.
So that's like something that I can guide you on.
Mason repair is not cheap.
No. And I'm all for chimneys. I have a
Yeah.
wood stove, and if I built a house today, I'd have a fireplace and a wood stove. I think people are wild for ditching that.
Yeah.
They're so dependent on the system now,
Right.
on public gas, public water. If that stuff shuts off, you're going to be cold.
Right.
So I'm all for chimney guys.
Yeah.
I think that chimneys need to come back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's just not enough masons out there.
There's not, no.
And-
There's
and-
not enough tradesmen, period. I mean,
Right.
if you watch this old house, it
Yeah.
seems like that's all they're doing is trying to push the youth into the trades.
Right.
Well, maybe now that there's not so many people and you can make good money again doing it, they'll come back.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I would definitely get a home inspection. If you're not getting a home inspection, do a post inspection so you fix things correctly in the right order and you're not wasting money where you don't need to waste money.
Right. Well, case in point,
Yep.
if you don't have to repoint your chimney, or
Yep.
maybe not repoint it, but put the chimney or reline it or
Yeah.
whatever the case is, you might be doing a direct vent heating system that doesn't need it at all.
And you're getting an unbiased opinion. You know,
Gotcha.
if you have the floor guy come and look at your floors, he's going to want to push a certain
Sure.
kind of floor.
Right.
Where my opinion's going to be based, I'm not making money off of your flooring,
Right,
so
right.
I'm going to give you the best advice I can give you.
I love that.
And then you can use that when you're dealing with contractors.
Gotcha. And do you have people in Tradesmen
I do,
that
yep.
you can say, hey, listen, here's 3 people, or here's a guy that,
Yep.
that I know that could fix this. He's worked with a lot of the customers.
Yep.
And then, reach out to them.
So I don't refer contractors, but I'll introduce you to guys.
Okay.
You know?
Gotcha.
I don't make money. I don't
Sure.
get commissions from them. But being in the trades, and it seems like Raymond, New Hampshire just pumps out trade workers.
Love it.
So I just, like
You know a
all
lot
my
of
closest
locals.
friends I have somebody in every trade.
Okay.
They're not the cheapest, but they're good and they're honest and they know what they're doing.
I'll get the job done.
Yeah.
All right, nice. So post inspections are okay. So,
And they're cheaper.
And they're cheaper.
Yeah, it's less liability for me because
Okay.
you already own the home.
Gotcha.
So it's not like you're going to call me in 2 weeks and be like, Mike, you missed this. What
Right.
the heck,
Right.
I would have negotiated that. So yeah, you get a discounted rate on it.
I love it.
But you still get the same report and water testing we can do. I have a short-term radon monitor. So at the beginning of the inspection, I can turn it on, and within 2 hours, it will have a number on there.
Wow.
So you'll at least have a rough idea. Your EPA wants you to do a 48 average.
Okay.
Especially for negotiating, if you're
Right.
purchasing, it has to be a 48-hour average. But at least this gives you an idea. If it's 1.2,
It's off the charts or not, you'll be like, hey, we definitely want to finish this inspection.
yeah. And radon air mitigation systems are, again, I don't know what money is to everybody. In my mind, pretty cheap, $1,200.
Okay.
$1,200 to $1,500.
Gotcha.
You're good.
All right.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yep.
So buyers out there, sellers out there also do inspections prior to,
Yep.
to listing the home, so
The
they can knock,
pre-inspection?
the pre-inspection So if you're thinking about buying a home, thinking about selling a home, Mike Capone, he owns his own company. He travels for the most part about an hour and a half within the Raymond area.
Yep.
So Lakes region, Seacoast, Central, Windham, all of that stuff. You're a go on that.
Yeah, and if you want to pay me, I'll drive 4 hours.
All right, there you go. So if you want him on your team, which he's
Yeah.
worth having on your team, so chat with him. He'll be able to figure out how to
For
get out there.
sure.
So that concludes another Grit Matters podcast today. Mike, thanks for coming in today, and we'll talk to you again.
Anytime. Yep.
All right, thank you.
Bye.